So today I want to encourage you to realize that you can make homemade bread. And I know people think that that's like a pretty overwhelming thing. Oh my God, I could never make bread. How does that even work? It's so mysterious, but it isn't that hard. So this recipe is sort of a naan bread, which is an Indian bread, N-A-A-N. It's a flat bread, but it's got some puffs of air in it. But it's kind of also a pita bread. It sort of depends on how you roll it and how you cook it. When I make it, I use it with bean purees and vegetables, and sort of in a Mediterranean kind of way. I swoop it through olive oil and it's super yummy and very comforting. And you can make this and it'll make about 9 individual little rolls for you to have. You could make 2 for a night to go with your dinner, and then you can wrap the whole thing up tight in saran wrap, put it in the fridge, and then you can use that for 2 or 3 more days. You could make a piece of fresh bread with your eggs in the morning. You could make a piece of fresh bread to go with your salad at lunch. And it's just kind of really homey and fun and grounding, I think, to make your own bread. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna have 2.5 cups of flour, which I have in here, just all-purpose flour. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take an active dry yeast, and we're gonna do 2 teaspoons. So there's 1, there's 2, and then we're gonna put a cup of hot water, and not boiling hot, but hot. Okay, so that's a cup, and I'm gonna put this in here, in with this dry yeast. And then I'm gonna stir this around just a little bit. And then we're gonna let that yeast rest and sort of bloom for about 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna get my flour ready to go. It's not gonna take the 5 minutes, but I need 2 teaspoons of salt. And when you put your yeast and your salt together before you start kneading it, the big trick is to keep your salt on one side and your yeast on the other. You don't want the salt to go directly in the yeast before it's kind of mixed in with the flour, because the salt will kill the yeast. So I'm gonna put my 2 teaspoons of salt on that side. I'm gonna kind of make like a little well here in my flour so that when I pour my yeast water in there, it's gonna go on that side. And the other thing I need a tablespoon of olive oil, and 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. So I'm just gonna use the same tool, and I'm gonna put that just right in the bowl. There we go. So that is basically ready to go. We're just gonna wait for this yeast to sort of bloom up. It's not really doing anything yet, but when it's starting to get active, you'll see it going like poof, 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 poof. And then the fun part, the workout part of bread, which makes you feel good about eating it because you worked out making it, is gonna be kneading this whole thing for about 7 minutes. I'll probably set a timer and I'll just be going at it, kneading my bread for 7 minutes. Then we're gonna let it rise for a couple of hours, and then it will be ready to cook. Okay, so our yeast has been in the water for like 5 minutes, and now I'm gonna dump it into the other side, the non-salt side of our thing here. And then I'm gonna start to mix this around. Now, when you first start to mix bread dough, it is super goopy, really, really goopy. So I like to use the one hand while I'm kind of trying to get all that flour and stuff together. Trying to get all of the pieces of it sort of to stick together. All right, so now I've got my dough here. And the kneading process is basically You're pushing it out like that and then folding it back. And then you can turn it periodically like a quarter of a way and keep going. And so this is a really good workout. You might need a quarter of a cup or so extra flour to just sort of keep it if it's getting sticky at all, but not too much flour. You want it to be a little bit sticky. I have an idea. Are there any questions, Erin, on my Instagram or my YouTube that I could answer for people while I'm kneading bread?
From Grant Wilson, he wants to know, do you miss your Desperate Housewives days?
Okay, Grant Wilson. Yes, I miss my Desperate Housewives days a lot. I never wanted the show to be canceled, and I always thought there were more stories for the characters on that street. But mostly, you know, when you're doing a TV show like that, the crew is like 70 people that you're seeing really on a daily basis, and of course the cast, and you know, they're your family, and it's a place that you get to go and accomplish something as a group. You know, everybody's like a piece of the puzzle, and you're all kind of trying to tell this story that you know that people enjoy and you enjoy. One of my favorite things about doing that show was that all the characters, the main women of the show, all of their characters had different storylines. Like, we weren't always doing poker scenes together. A lot of us had, you know, just different lives. And so when we would film that, we wouldn't always be together. In fact, rarely were we together, except for those poker scenes, because Lynette would be dealing with something with her family, and Susan would be dealing with something with hers, and Gabby the same. So when I got to watch the show, when me, Teri, would be home on a Sunday night watching the show, and I would get to watch those other characters, those other actresses work, I hadn't seen that. Like, I was just like you, like a fan, getting to watch the show, getting to watch the actresses work. And so it was like a surprise to me too. So it was kind of funny. It was like I was on a show that I watched, because part of me didn't know what was happening in the same way I wouldn't know if I wasn't on it. So yes, that's my very long way of saying I miss it. But I'm also really grateful. We had a great time, and it was an amazing experience. So that's what's happening with this dough right now. It's starting to turn into a smoother and smoother ball, and I'm just gonna keep working it. And you're just working, you're like building up the gluten in this. This is what's gonna make the bread be airy and kind of springy. I think there's something really relaxing about this, and knowing that I can do it by hand, and knowing that I'm sort of putting my loving energy into this bread. I really believe in that saying, that idea that you shouldn't cook when you're mad because your food never comes out good. I enjoy this. This is a good workout for me. And I think you can tell I'm actually breathing hard. This is not an act. But at the end, you sort of fold it all under each other, and you have it there sort of done. Then you're going to take it and you're going to put it into your bowl. So you're going to cover the bowl tightly, and then the trick is you want to take like a magic marker, and you can see the dough is in there. It's like a little ball. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the marker and I'm just going to outline the size of the ball of dough. And you just let it rise for 2 hours. Okay, so we are back, and we have waited 2 hours to let this dough rise. And you can see, like I told you, that you drew the circle around the piece of dough, and you can see that it's almost doubled in size. Like, see how the dough is now on the outside of my little magic marker circle. That's how I know that it's risen as much as I want it to. Now we're gonna unwrap it. Oh, it smells good. And then we're just gonna let this kind of roll out onto our rolling mat here. And now, stretch it out. I'm trying to kind of work it into a square. It feels a little bit sticky to me, so you can tell, like, as you're stretching it out, it wants to pull back, which is good because that means there's a lot of spring in it. And I am going to go ahead and roll it just a little. Ultimately, with this kind of naan/pita bread, you want your pieces, when they go in the pan, to be about an 1/8 of an inch thick. So that's sort of the shape I'm trying to go for. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer that onto my parchment paper here. This will continue to rest like this and sort of relax down, but I'm going to eat bread right away. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this into 9 pieces. So I'm going to let that rest, and I'm going to take one piece here. Once you get your 9 shapes, which you don't really have to ball up, but you can leave them separated on any dish that you're going to be able to put in the fridge. You cover it with plastic, you keep it in the fridge, it's airtight, and then you can have one piece of fresh bread whenever you want it. This is going to take not even 3 minutes to cook once we get going, and you can make this today, and then you can be eating this bread for up to 3 days. I'm going to be cooking this in a cast iron skillet, which I'm going to turn on like a medium high, and I decided today to go with avocado oil because it's a high heat oil and it's good for you. So I'm just gonna put like a tablespoon of that in there and see how this one goes. And I hit my timer, and we're gonna do 30 seconds on the one side, and then we're gonna flip it. And then I'm gonna do, oh wow, look at that. I think our piece of bread is done, and it smells great. It's hot. You can see when you oh, it's hot. You rip it apart. It's just like really light and fluffy. This of bread that you made. It's so good. Okay, I love that. Okay, so we have 5 nice pieces of our bread, and now I'm going to teach you to make a white bean dip. So the first thing is I'm going to get my food processor here. So all we're doing for this is we've got a can of cannellini beans. They're very healthy and high protein. I know some of you probably buy hummus already made in the store, but I'm showing you how easy and quick it is to make some version of that that'll be healthy and satisfying, especially with this yummy homemade bread. Then we're going to take a lemon, and I'm just gonna hand squeeze this. I love some paprika with this, so I'm just sprinkling a little bit with it. And I'm gonna do about maybe a teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon of salt. And then you put your lid of your food processor on, and I have my olive oil here. I never measure anything, but let me just pour a little bit so that I can give you guys a little bit better idea. I don't think it's going to be more than that, but I'm starting with, that's a 1/4 cup, so we'll see if I get through that much. All right, let me check that out. I'm gonna add a little parsley. Yeah, I think that's good. And so I think I used about probably 1/8 of a cup. you're having like a dinner party or watching football and you just want like a little healthy snack, I think for fun, if you just want to seem fancy, you could take a little bit of parsley and just crush it right on the top. Just look a little pretty. And there you go. I like that part. So there you have naan bread and bean dip, and I am going in. Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things to eat ever. Oh my God, it's so good. And you can have fresh bread and you can make it at home. And you can watch more videos if you subscribe to this channel with great food.